What you're looking at is a marvel of nature, and one of the most amazing things I've ever filmed. It's an orb-weaving spider in the act of spinning its web. You see, this is a tiny creature, but somehow its instincts give it the skill to create this beautiful, symmetrical structure out of silk. The life of this spider is fascinating, so today on the Creature Feature, get ready to learn the story of the Orb-Weaver and its web. So if you do a little research into spiders, you will quickly see that orb-weavers are one of the largest groups. I believe there's over 5,000 species. Yes, 5,000 species of orb-weavers, and they're populated throughout the entire world. So they're relatively easy to find. They're pretty numerous spiders, and they can look all different ways. There's some that are giant, some that are pretty small, some that look just totally weird. But they all have one thing in common, which is their web. They build this flat, wheel-shaped web. And don't get me wrong, cobwebs have their own charm. The spiders that build those can be pretty cool. But orb webs have something about them that is just so beautiful. But before we get into their amazing webs, let's look at an example of an orb weaver. While searching the woods for spiders, I discovered this little gem. A red-femered orb weaver, the perfect specimen to examine and learn from. Now take a look at what we just caught. This is probably the spider group that is most well known, the orb weavers. They're a fascinating spider group. All of them are harmless to people, even if they do look very, very weird and very creepy. They're totally harmless creatures and actually very beneficial. Now, orb weavers are famous for the webs that they spin. They spin those beautiful silken spirals of concentric circles, the classic orb web. And the orb web is potentially one of the most complex structures built by any animal on Earth. And it's a true marvel of nature. And it is their hunting tool. Now, the process of this spider constructing its silken trap is such a fascinating one that I can't really do justice by just talking about it, so I'm going to show you how this creature builds its web. To observe and film an orb weaver spinning its web, I went out just as night was falling. The evening hours are right when these spiders are starting to emerge. The spider will find an open area that flying insects are active in, but there also needs to be some kind of structure to build the web on, like sticks, bushes, or in this case, a bridge over a lake. And this bridge was special. There were dozens, maybe hundreds of orb weavers coming out all at once to build their webs. It was the perfect spot to film the behavior. To start, an orb weaver creates a framework of silk spokes. Once this is made, it attaches a non-sticky, widely spaced spiral of silk. This is the scaffolding on which the spider makes the most important part of the web, the sticky silk threads that play the role of capturing prey. It starts these at the very edge of its web and slowly works toward the center in concentric circles, laying down a trail of silk as it goes. It coats these strands with a layer of glue, making them viscous and capable of ensnaring prey. To better appreciate the talents of this spider, I got some amazing time-lapse footage that shows the whole process unfolding. In 30 minutes to an hour, the web is complete, and the spider sits at the center, waiting for prey. Now, once the spider has completed the structure, they usually do it in like a little under an hour, then it's time to set up their ambush. So they return to the middle of the web, the hub, and they just sit there with their legs splayed out, touching all the different spokes. Because this creature is essentially blind, its eyes can kind of distinguish like light from dark, but they're not going to be able to actually hunt by eyesight. So they simply wait, and when an insect inevitably flies into that web, their amazing sense of touch picks up the struggling through the silk lines. While I was filming these spiders, insects were being attracted to my light, and it didn't take very long for the spiders to start catching them. As I watched, a midge flew into one of the webs. It struck the sticky capture threads, and immediately started trying to escape from the glue-coated silk. But its attempts to free itself merely doomed the insect, as the spider immediately felt the disturbance. It began pulling on the web, trying to ascertain where the movement was coming from. Eventually, its highly attuned senses locked onto the insect, and it descended on its prey, ready to feed. It will either eat it now, or wrap it in silk and save the meal for later. Now, you might think there's a flaw in the spider's plan. I mean, obviously, it's a really good hunting technique to build a sticky trap, but of course, the spider has to live and walk on that trap. So won't it get stuck, you might ask? And the answer is no. Now, the spider has dealt with that pretty efficiently. There are two ways a spider avoids getting stuck in its own web. One is that it generally tries to keep to the non-sticky spokes of the web, and it stays off that sticky capture spiral that catches insects. But also, for when it does have to touch the sticky parts of its web, it has an oily substance on its feet that basically makes it non-stick. So while any insects that crash into the web are hopelessly entangled, the spider can dance across its own trap and never get caught. What a strange, wonderful little creature. Spiders have always fascinated me. I know they creep a lot of people out. I'm not going to say they're not creepy looking creatures. They are. But they're so weird, they're kind of wonderful. And before I let her go, let's see if I can get her to walk on my hand for a little bit. That's always a little, makes me jump a tiny bit when they do that. Oh, you see how it's producing silk from the spinneret? It just seems to have like limitless quantities of silk. It's truly amazing. There we go. Now it's cooperating a little bit more. I mean, I think one of the things that scares people about spiders is just how fast and unpredictable they are like that. And it is, when I'm handling them, it does make me jump just a little bit when they do that, even though I'm not really scared of them because they are such fascinating little creatures. Well, that was quite the adventure with the Orb-Weaver. I really hope you enjoyed learning about this creature's amazing life history. It's such a fascinating little creature, and there are many more like them waiting for us. So, I will see you next week on the Creature Feature.